multiple AUSAs in our office. Elliot Daniels, my co-counsel, I could not have done this without him. Dean Secor in our Charleston office. Austin Berry with the Department of Justice and the CIOS division. But most of all, I'll thank Homeland Security, Britton Lorenzen. It's a terrible case, terrible facts, terrible material, and the material that was described by Elliot in court today, Homeland Security agents had to watch that. And it's not just Britton. We have Eric Klein, Shannon McGowan. They had to view these images too, and we thank the work that they do and all law enforcement in this state that has to go through this terrible material to prosecute these kind of cases. Scott Stakowski from Homeland Security was great in supporting this investigation from the beginning. Lance Crick, Brian Sterling, Maine Justice. It truly was a team effort, and I'm just grateful for everybody who assisted and who was involved in this investigation.
Elliot Daniels.
I also want to thank you all for being here, and I too want to thank Homeland Security. I think the message that Judge Currie sent today is that if you abuse children in our state, you'll go to prison in our state. R.J. May exploited and abused the most vulnerable among us: toddlers, infants, children who are too young to protect themselves, too young to recognize harm when it's being done to them. And every time he received those videos, rather than reporting them or lifting a finger to help them, he sent them on to other child pornographers. Judge Currie put him in prison for 210 months. He's earned that term. He will not be treated any better or any worse because of who he is. But it doesn't matter what station you are in life. If you hurt kids in our state, we will not spare any resource to prosecute your case. To Homeland Security, thank you. It's often thankless and difficult hours they put in, but our state is safer for R.J. May being in prison. In public, he talked the talk. In public, he would support kids, sponsor the bills, and in private, he'd abuse them. He's a predator. He would deceive those even closest to him, and we're safer for him being in prison.
We'll take a few questions.
Obviously, you were hoping for a longer sentence. I know in the document there was even a mention of 260, but I know there are sentencing guidelines talked about in this hearing as well. How do you feel about 210 months and considering that, from what I remember, I think it was like 151 that was nationally the average for cases like this. Could you maybe talk about that comparison?
Sure.
As well?
Well, look, approaching sentencing in the right number is a difficult exercise in any case. We asked for the statutory maximum because we believed R.J. May earned it. We trust and respect Judge Currie, and we thank her for her sentence. She rightfully pointed out that his conduct was more severe than the average child pornographer. She's been on the bench for decades, and what she said from the bench today was that his abuse material, his child pornography, is the most severe material she has ever seen. She's been on the bench since the 90s. He was punished more severely than other defendants who have similar convictions because his conduct was worse. The videos involved particular humiliation, degradation, physical abuse, physical pain, tears, parents abusing children, and those are the videos he sought out, he curated, and he shared. So he was sentenced to a longer sentence than the average defendant because he earned it. We did ask for 240. We trust Judge Currie's judgment. We thank her for the sentence. We do think it reflects the seriousness of his conduct, and he'll be in prison for 17 and a half years because of it.
Now that the case is over, can y'all can y'all go to explain the lengths that y'all went to try to find these people in Colombia that you thought were abused?
Sure. Homeland Security from 2 different field offices went to 2 different cities in Colombia looking for who agents described as at least 3 females who had body frames that were more petite than adults. They had undeveloped breasts. They appeared to be teenagers, but we didn't know who they were. I think the fact that federal agents from the United States went to Colombia for more than a month looking for these women who might have been in the commercial sex trade and might have been children is a great credit to our agency. Our agents. It shows that Homeland Security will travel across the world to investigate a case. And so HSI dedicated an extraordinary amount of resources to try to find these women. They could not ultimately find them, and ultimately Judge Currie said that she would consider some of that conduct, but not all of it. But we brought every bit that we could from the country of Colombia into the courtroom today, and we do think it shows that R.J. May was a hands-on abuser. We do think it shows predatory and violent physical sex. He's not just a guy on a screen. he finds people and engages in predatory conduct. That was the importance of the Colombia conduct for me.
How many kick users did RJ engage with?
100. So RJ May received videos depicting children being abused, and he sent it to 100 other child pornographers, 16 states, 6 nations, 3 continents. So he sent it out to 100 users.
So we're obviously aware of the traveling nurses arrest out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Are additional arrests expected? Have they already happened?
I don't know the answer to that question, and honestly,
wasn't fair because his position didn't enable him to more easily access this material, but obviously the judge, right when she was sentencing, said because he was standing up there and he was sponsoring certain bills at the State House, claiming to be an advocate for children, and then behind closed doors engaging in this sort of conduct, she certainly considered that. Can you just comment on that piece?
sure. What RJ May's public record versus his private conduct showed is that he is the ultimate hypocrite. In public, he would sing the right song. He would say he's a protector of children. He'd advance bills that criminalized child pornography distribution and severely punished it while distributing child pornography. And so bill after bill that even overlapped with his child pornography conduct would seek to punish people who were doing what he was doing in private. And so it shows that RJ May was a very different person in public than he was in private. And Judge Currie was right to say that he of all people knew better. He of all people understood both the harm and the consequences. And so she was right to take it into consideration. And I do think that RJ May betrayed the public trust. District 88, 41,000 voters counted on him to represent them and their values in the State House. What he did with that is he exploited and abused children. And if he was treated the way that he asked Judge Currie to treat him, which is to give him the mandatory minimum sentence possible, it would send the exact wrong message, that someone in his high position in life might be treated better than others. I'm glad that she considered it. She should have. And I think that the judge got that right.
As far as you talked about some of the victim statements, are you guys still looking for the victims that, is that still an ongoing search? I wasn't sure.
That's always an ongoing process. First Assistant mentioned the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's what they do all day, every day, is trying to identify these victims. It's a long, arduous process, and it never stops. We're never not looking for victims. But at this point, of the 60 or so victims identified in Mr. May's case, we haven't identified any additional ones beyond the ones we know about, but it's always something we're pursuing.
How many victims are not identified?
Approximately 40.
With respect to how the case began, I think there's an indication in one of the pretrial filings that Mr. May had reached out and contacted an undercover government operative who was on the internet. Can you address that, please?
That's, as we had detailed in our sentencing memo and the detention memo, there are cyber tips that are made. Social media companies like Kik have to disclose things like that. Sometimes law enforcement enters into chat rooms to attempt to verify who offenders are. I think it's probably not accurate to say there was an undercover involved here, but this case originated from a cyber tip. Legal process was served by Lexington County to discover Mr. May's identity, and then further federal search warrants were executed from there. So I would say not necessarily, no.
Well, what role, so you're saying a government agent played no role whatsoever in this case?
Of course,
As far
federal
as the
agents
internet?
played lots of roles
Yeah.
in this case.
As far as the internet contacts.
Well, Kik made the cyber tip disclosure, and then once both Lexington County, the Attorney General's office, Homeland Security got that information, they then pursued that lead. There's always investigations ongoing, involves use of chat rooms. I don't think it's fair to say an undercover was necessarily involved in here.
What term would you use?
I would say good police work, law enforcement. You can call it what you want, but it's we pursue multiple methods to find child predators.
All right. I think that'll do it, y'all. Thank you very much for being here. Again, Veronica Wheeler is our press information officer. I think everybody may know her. If not, please get to know her. If you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to Veronica. Thank you very much. Oh. All right, don't go anywhere. Lead counsel. I'm gonna pull my car up there. We'll put it.
I'll be here. Yeah, absolutely.